Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Saṅgha. I hope you are well. If not, that's quite alright too. Space for everyone and all their feelings. As we await our first guests to arrive, I would like to do an invocation of the pranav, the omkara, the cosmic syllable, om, 3 times deeply, and then the Gayatri mantra. Namaste, Asad. Welcome, you're very early. Swaha tatsaviturvarenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yonah prachodayat. Thank you. Namaste, Dalita. Namaste, all those who are joining now. I trust that you are as well as you can be in this moment. My intention for this space today is to create a positive atmosphere for us to come together as fellow students of life, to uplift each other, relate in one another's experiences, and share uplifting sentiments. Namaste, Bubbles. That's right, Alicia. I am a big brother to a little sister. Ricardo, you ask, what is Saṅgha? Saṅgha is a Sanskrit word that means the power to associate. In each moment, the highest ability of our conscious free will is, it is said traditionally, Saṅgha, the ability to associate with positive people, positive thoughts, positive feelings, positive pieces of knowledge. Essentially, our present moment is full of a mixed bag, like trail mix, and we want the M&Ms, we want the sweetness, and we don't care for the raisins. If you can fine-tune your awareness such that you pick up on the possibilities that are in each moment, then that is what it means to engage in Saṅgha. Namaste, Kukwan Mansta. Hello, Michelle. The first time I had a board behind me, I did redraw it. I put it horizontal to fit a little bit more. Added some more symbols from the different traditions around the world. Namaste, little ghosts. Much love, Alexander. Hello, everyone. How are you? Please know that regardless of what you're feeling, it is my wish for this space to be one that includes you. If you are sad, that's okay too. If you are joyful, happy to use the space as an expression of your joy. Well said, Bubbles. Much more breathing room. Oh, the breath. Om Namah Shivaya, dear Michelle. Hello. Oh, how do I pronounce your name? It could be Gege. It could be Gig. It could be JJ. You can tell me the best way to pronounce your name. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for being here and for blessing us with a rose so early on in our Saṅgha. Radhe Radhe. Bonsoir, dear Karen. And hello, Angel. You know, I'm feeling quite well at this moment. I woke up very sleepy. I still am pretty sleepy. And that's okay. You know, when you stay up for 24 hours and it's easy, you know, relatively easy. You get that second wind and you feel energized. But then the next day after that, even if you get a good sleep, you still feel tired. Like the hangover from having an all-nighter 2 nights ago. I kind of feel like that. Even though I didn't actually stay up for 24 hours 2 nights ago, I did have a hard night sleeping. So I'm feeling my sleep hangover today. But I'm always energized to be here with you. Alexander, you ask a good question. I'll answer your question, but I do want to point out, I've restructured my live stream a little bit so that the first third is dedicated to Shravana. That's for our show and tell and for our reading. And then we can really dive into questions in the Manana, the middle third. So we can explore deeper this question later, but I'll just answer now. How does one escape the 9-to-5 grind matrix to go all in on his passions? This transition is tough, bro. Well, I'm happy to hear that you want to pursue your passions. Whatever you do, know that the process is the ultimate goal. Even while you are working a 9-to-5 job, consider the profound work you are doing in the little actions of service. Every job is a kind of service, no matter how draining or exhausting, no matter how unhealthy our coworkers or our boss may be. If we can find the value in providing something for this world, then you should feel good even before this transition fully transfers you into the next phase of your life. So the spirit of karma yoga is just that. To work, to engage in karma with a kind of yoga, with a kind of tranquil, unified consciousness, where you're not working to attain anything in the future, but just to a meditative extent right now. And best wishes for you in your transition to going all in on your passion. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you, John Simon, for the heart me that you sent to. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now, normally I'd like to dedicate this part of the live stream to a show and tell. So I'll just remind everyone that if you have a creative project that you'd like a little audience to share with, I'd be more than happy to use a part of this live stream in showcase of a creative interest of yours, a special talent, or something else meaningful to you, even if it's a photo of a sunset, even if it's your favorite outfit. I don't care. I'm just happy to have a place to be able to amplify your voice. So check out the show and tell application form in the link tree in my bio. It's a place for you to drop files, images, videos, audio files, PDFs. If you're a poet, I'd love to hear some of your writing. A short film, asks Indigo. Well, that sounds lovely. Maybe if we break it up into bite-sized pieces, you know, depending how long this short form film is, I'd say that 15 minutes is a good maximum for a show and tell section. Thank you, dear Coco. Thank you, Cassie, for the heart me too. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. But because we've gone through all of the show and tell segments already, everything that people have submitted, then there's no one today. So just letting you know anyway. But I would like to read from another section of our book, Hollywood to the Himalayas. This is a book about an American woman who later became known as Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati. You can kind of see her in the cover here. She went to India kind of spontaneously because her husband was going and he was having a bit of a spiritual pilgrimage. And she was along for the ride. She struggled with eating disorders when she was a child, and trauma and abuse and abandonment issues were really big for her. So of course she's not being alone while her husband goes to another country. But ironically, it was her that ended up having a spiritual awakening of sorts. She dipped into this river known as Ganga, and the goddess of the river just appeared to her, and it was like everything and everyone was this divine entity, including herself, and she didn't know what to make of it. And she ended up feeling drawn to this ashram, this place of spiritual hermitage, and people told her, oh yeah, totally normal to have a spiritual awakening and see the goddess of the universe in this river. Happens every day. Seriously. And she ended up finding a guru, the president of the ashram, Pujya Swami Chidananda Saraswati. And he ended up taking her in, and she was very excited to tell her husband Jim of this, because he had gone to find an ashram or a guru, and here she was one step ahead of him. But it seemed like he had some unresolved insecurities, and so he took that personally for some reason and felt like this ashram, this guru, was hers and not his, and they ended up separating, and ultimately later on going through a divorce. He ended up sending a lot of mean letters her way, faxes about how he'd been having the time of his life while she stayed behind in this ashram with her new guru. But for the first time in her life, she didn't feel abandoned. She felt empowered to stay there and discover what it means to, have a spiritual life. Her guru ended up telling her to go back to America to finish her PhD degree, and so she did, reluctantly. And her guru ended up eventually coming a few months later to America, and that's where we left off in the story. That she was very happy to have her guru in America, and there's many other parts of that story that, of course, I'm glossing over. You're welcome to check out the recordings of the readings that I do as I post on my Yamsox Live's YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up, you can feel free to do so. Okay, without further ado, let's read the 22nd chapter, and actually the 23rd, because both of these chapters are just 2 pages each. So I hope you'll join me. Chapter 22. Enter Hanuman. Everything is possible with the devotion. I wonder if you've heard of Hanuman before. Hanuman is a form of the divine in India. I'm sure we'll find out more. One evening, Swamiji, my guru, showed me the building that had served as the Hindu Jain temple while the new huge mandir on the hill was being built. The old temple had been converted to a community center. He showed me the room that had served for prayers, worship, devotion, and chanting. Now a meeting hall, the kitchen in which he had bathed before they built him a proper bathroom with a shower, the library, and the small room where he'd stayed for so many years, sleeping on the floor, overseeing the establishment of this first Hindu Jain temple in the world. and ultimately founding not only a gorgeous red brick three-domed mandir up the hill, but also transforming a nearly 1,000 square mile area of people from different parts of India and different religious backgrounds into a strong, cohesive community, connected to each other and to their house of worship, a community broad enough to encompass the myriad streams from which they'd come. How beautifully said. It's easy to understate the importance of a Hindu Jain mandir. What does that even mean? Well, it's a house of worship that combines two different religions into one. And I think that's wonderful, and I'm happy that our author speaks so highly of that accomplishment. Today it seems like there is such a dissonance between different religions. You wouldn't expect to have one building which houses two kinds of faiths at the same time. And that's the nature of our author's guru. He is one that tries to build bridges where it may seem impossible before. It's amazing to see all this, I told him. I would never have imagined being outside of Pittsburgh and feeling that I'm in a spiritual paradise. I just didn't think of Pittsburgh that way. It's crazy, isn't it? He smiled and said, "It's crazy when you are crazy. It's crazy because you think it's crazy. You think that if you are in some fancy place with luxury on a beach with all the comforts, you will be happy. My child, that is not what life is for. You are happy here because you have found what most people never find. You have found peace instead of pieces. You have connected to yourself, not just to objects on your shelf. Most people think only of filling their shelves. You are connecting to the true self." Because Swamiji picked up English by speaking with Indian Americans, for many of whom it's a second language, it is not always grammatically perfect, but it is an eloquent, inspired array of unforgettable rhymes and alliterations. People meet him decades later and say, "I remember when you asked if I wanted to live in peace or in pieces, whether I wanted to be better or bitter. It changed my life." On that crisp March evening, as we walked across the now paved grounds of the temple, at that time a muddy hilltop, he continued, "You are a divine soul, and you will teach and touch so many others in your life. You will really make a huge difference in the world." It was beginning to remind me of my mother saying, as I stood pitifully before mirrors as a mid-adolescent bemoaning the state of various bodily parts, that I was the most beautiful girl in the world. I knew, even as a preteen, that, of course, I wasn't the most beautiful girl in the world, and that my mother, being my mother, saw beauty in me and comforted my insecurities as best she could. Now, Swamiji was saying something that felt similar, and yet I knew it was far beyond any simple intention to mollify my insecurities. "Swamiji, I agree, of course, that I have been incredibly blessed in the last 6 months, that I've been given something I still can't describe, but luckily, you understand, I feel beyond grateful for this precious gift and for the blessings you shower on me, even though I'm definitely not worthy. But here, I think you're going overboard. I am not someone who can make that kind of difference in the world. I know I'm intelligent. I know I can teach a class on neuropsychology and get an A's on exams. But that's different from touching people deeply or making that kind of real difference. That is not a skill or ability I have, but," I added, lest he feel I was rudely disagreeing, "I deeply appreciate your kind words." "You will see," he said. and we walked the rest of the temple grounds in silence. The next morning, next to his files on the coffee table was a yellow-trimmed, colorful paperback book with an image on the cover of 3 people walking in a single file through a forest, and the word Ramayana written in bold red letters at the top. Later, I would learn that the figures were Lord Rama, Sita Ma, and Lakshman. I had just come upstairs to his bedroom office. No, I mixed up some words in that sentence. I had just come upstairs to his office from my bedroom, and I asked, "What's this?" as I sat back on my heels after bowing to him. "It is the Ramayana, a very sacred book telling the story of Bhagawan Rama, God in human form. This is a simple and good English translation. You should read it." I began reading it that afternoon and stayed up most of the night to finish. It was like an exciting novel. Romance, power struggles, betrayal, jealousy, forest adventures, war, and good guys and bad guys, with the former emerging triumphant. The spiritual teachings were woven simply into the threads of the plot. Lord Rama's words and actions were riveting in the pattern of the hero's journey of exile, battles, and ultimate victory. One of the main characters is Hanuman, son of the god of wind. Hanuman is a monkey and part of the army of animals that serve in Lord Rama's army to rescue his wife, Sita, from the demon king Ravana, who snatched her and whisked her off to his kingdom of Lanka, now known as the country of Sri Lanka. Hanuman is no ordinary monkey, however. Along with his divine attributes, his single-minded devotion to God in the form of Lord Rama leads him to achieving great miracles. He is the embodiment of devotion. During the course of the Ramayana, Hanuman performs feats enumerated in the Hanuman Chalisa, 40 verses dedicated to him, as well as in a chapter of the Ramayana called the Sundarkand, the so-called beautiful chapter. Hanuman flies across the ocean from India to Lanka with the Himalayan mountains in hand to bring the elixir of life, Sanjeevani, to restore Lord Rama's brother, Lakshman, to life. He traps the waning sun under his arm to keep it from setting before he arrives to the battleground. He makes himself enormous, then infinitesimally small. When asked how he did all these feats, Hanuman explains, "I close my eyes and recite Lord Rama's name, and the rest just happens." The next morning, I was waiting for Swamiji in his office, too excited to sleep after I'd finished the Ramayana. As he stepped downwards, I threw myself at his feet, and then sat back on my heels and looked up at him with hands folded in prayer, the tears streaming down my face. "If a monkey can do all that," I said, "just by being devoted to God, then maybe you're right. Maybe I can do something meaningful with my life too. Maybe I can make a difference in the world. I just have to be devoted." "See," he said, smiling, "I told you." That is the end of the 22nd chapter. She must be a very fast reader. The Ramayana is no easy read. 10 times longer than the Iliad and Odyssey combined. It's 100,000 verses. So I imagine she had a shorter version. The longest epic in the world. How wonderful. Thank you for listening. Namaste. As I said, that was a very short chapter, so I'd like to read the one just after that in a moment, but I'll give you all a break for a second. I wanted to thank those who sent a gift while we read. And oh my goodness, it seems like Jarrett is not done with his streak of gratuitous offerings to our Saṅgha. As he gifted a subscription, it seems, to the following people: User123, York, Rainbolt Mom, David Robinson, Doucet Home, Mr. Michael, Jake Castle, Bunny Hugs Podcast, Dulce, Mori Mori, Benjable, Wild Thing, Catherine the Wise Old Owl, Kuzo, Jen, Shakipu, Deeply, Sean, Sadie aka Brat, Lou Daniel, Devin, Cecilia Linda, Spiritual Vibes, Saul Goodman, X-Ray, Suzaramo, Ostlending, John Simon Ritchie, Chris, YA50, Maya, Veronica, Mahakmak, Rhiannon, BV Mirrors, Discernment, Claude, Medium Rare, Alien T, Ms. Bliss, Deanna, Robkin, Lumi, Haley, Smitty, Buddha in Your Voice, Aaron, Giuliano, and Maria. While reading that, you're thinking, my goodness, when is this list going to end? It seems as though our dear Jarrett has sent a subscription to as many people as there are here, thereabouts, probably. You had done this yesterday as well. It's deeply humbling, and you know, all I can do is take it as inspiration to become better myself, since I don't feel like I deserve such a wonderful offering. But given that it's not just for me, it's for other people to benefit from this live stream, well, now I've got my homework ahead of me to become wiser, humbler, more patient myself, so that I can really give back, at least in the same extent that you have gifted me, but hopefully much more, as I wish to give back infinite fold all that which comes my way. So thank you, dear Jarrett, for such a grateful, such a amazing extension of gratitude. I hope you all make use of dear Jarrett's gift, and I recently added a new sticker to our live subscription, and that's it's hands folded in prayer. One of you asked if we could add that, and I asked how we could make it special, because there's already an emoji that does that, and there's a wonderful idea of having henna on it, a traditional Eastern decoration, a temporary tattoo. Makes the skin look very artistically designed. I hope you enjoy that. I see many of you have found that already. Good. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiya Mamritat. Now, that wasn't the only thing. Dear York, thank you for the heartbeat that you sent too. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Hybrid Jen, thank you for the witchy kitty. That's very cute. Om Aing Saraswatyai Namaha. Thank you, Babblefishy, for your quintet of pumpkins. Om Kring Kalikaye Namaha. And Anna Poles, thank you for your heart me. Om Braum Hanumade Namaha. Dear Amy, thank you for your heart me too. Om Namah Shivaya. And Babelfishy, thank you for another heart me and cheer you up. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. And Jared, thank you for an additional heart me. It's very funny. You know, in India, there used to be a tradition whenever you'd gift something really big, you'd also gift something really small. Like if you were going to gift someone, I don't know, a brand new Tesla, or back in the day it would be a brand new horse and carriage, fresh off the press, then it's very difficult to accept such a big gift. So what you do is you'd also offer maybe a bowl of fruit or something really small. You'd offer a flower along with it. And then just with the flower in hand, it feels much easier to accept on the recipient side. It's like, oh, well, I don't know about accepting a brand new horse and buggy, but this flower, thank you. And so it's tangible, I guess. I think it's a really interesting idea. I just thought of that after you sent so many subscriptions. You gave one heart me. Very cute. Reminds me of that. Thank you, Babelfishy, for all of your lovely gifts too. Viber Zero, thank you for your heart me and team bracelet. Om Kamalir Maha Kalikaye Namaha. And Tupini, thank you for your heart me. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Thank you, York, for your pumpkin. And Baby Penguin, Newt Newt. Cody Jain, thank you for your heart me. Hare Krishna. Dr. Ebb, thank you for your 20 roses as well. Om Shrim Mahalakshmi Namaha. And Indigo, thank you for your heart me. Om Brahmbhairvaya Namo Namaha. And Gem Life, thank you for your heart me too. I'm running out of unique mantras. Radhe Radhe. And Lilimor, thank you for your quartet of roses. Jaya Satchitananda. And thank you everyone for your patience as I extend my gratitude back to those who send a gift. I'm glad you like the Newt, dear Greg RG. Nothing is, of course, ever expected. I'm just happy to be here with all of you. And I use each gift as a reminder to put even more value into this live stream so that we all can benefit from it. Dear Calm Damon, you wonder if I believe Jesus is real? That's a wonderful question, and if you're not in a rush, perhaps we can explore that once we get to the Manana section of our Saṅgha, as we are still in the Shravana, the acquiring of a new experience portion. I have another chapter, a very short chapter of this book I'd still like to read with you. But to wet your whistle, I can answer very briefly, and we can dive deeper into this, that reality is something to be experienced, and there are many experiences I've had that point me to the reality of truth that this being known as Jesus represents. And there's so much more experiences that I could have surrounding that. And I hope to learn from those who have had those experiences. And of the ones I have, I hope to share them too. Let's continue. This is the 23rd chapter. Let me make sure I'm recording. The 23rd chapter of Hollywood to the Himalayas is titled Parents. When people hear my story of coming to India, they invariably ask, "How did your parents respond?" What would you expect my American Jewish parents in Los Angeles, whose Stanford grad had just announced she had abandoning a PhD program to live in an ashram in India because she sees God in the river and in the eyes of barefoot children, to say? My mom's first response was no. No is an utterance, an automatic reaction, not a word. After that, she tried to persuade me not to stay, as nearly everyone did. I wrote my parents a letter explaining everything. I had learned over the 18 years I had lived under my mother's roof that writing letters was the best way. It gave her time and space for the initial no to come out privately, for the panic to rise and then fall, so that by the time we spoke, she would have regained her composure and perhaps even her perspective. I don't know where this path will take me, I said. However, I do know where my path will go if I don't return to India. It will be a life like the one you live, the one everyone I know lives, a life I know is right for you. It makes you happy, and I'm deeply glad that you're happy in this life. I respect your choices completely, and I know that when I am 52, my mom's age at the time, I don't want the life that you have today. I say this with full respect and love. Your life is perfect for you, but it's not perfect for me. If I stay on the same train, I will end up at the same destination. Therefore, I must get on a different train. The only person I've ever met who is where I'd love to end up is Swamiji. I won't get all the way there this lifetime, but that is the train I have to get on. I would love to go with your blessings. I will, though, go even without your blessings, so please don't think that withholding your blessings will prevent me from going. Well said. Good on her. She was, of course, sad and worried. Yet, beneath her role as an over-anxious Jewish mother, I felt a deep acknowledgement. "You've become so serene," she said to me one day. "Just being with you makes me feel peaceful." The truth is a magnet, Swamiji had assured me. Don't try to force it on people, just live it. Be the truth, and you will be a magnet. As I was living that truth, the pull of the magnet was strong. My mother had wanted to go into the Peace Corps when she was just out of graduate school, but her father convinced her that if she took 2 years off in some remote part of the world, there would be no good men left to marry by the time she'd get back. So she stayed. We often joked, not really a joke, that it would have been so much better if she had gone to the Peace Corps and spared us all the pain of her first husband, my father Manny, and had simply come back later, married Frank, and had me with him. But alas, she wasn't defiant enough to disobey her dad. So she understood my yearning, and she struggled with herself not to do to me what her father had done to her. Force me to sacrifice the soul's longing on the altar of societal norms. I could catch glimpses of her blessings between the drama of her hysterics. Frank did not take part in these conversations. He was present, but my mom did all the talking. At the end of a several-minute litany of the many reasons I shouldn't go to India, she'd say, "And Frank agrees with me, right?" She had known Frank since Frank had come into my life just in time for my 7th birthday, that the best way to get me to do anything was to say, "Frank wants this." In a private moment, I asked him, I know Mom is hysterical, but what do you really think? His opinion mattered so much to me. He looked at me, and in a moment, the incredibleness of which I would truly appreciate only many years later, he said to me, his 25-year-old daughter who was leaving everything behind to live in India, "Honey, in 25 years, you have never made a decision that I think was the wrong decision. I do not understand this one, but just because I don't understand it, who am I to suddenly assume you've started making wrong decisions?" Then, casually, he added, "You're batting 1,000 so far. I have to assume the trend will continue." How sweet. Well, that's as much of an approval from the parents as I think one is going to get, given that she has decided to pause her pursuit of her PhD degree and move to another country, a developing nation, to live with some guru. Thank you for listening. That'll conclude our reading for now. Namaste. I'm grateful I had the moment to read another section of this book with you. Welcome everyone who joined while we were reading. So we can transition from our Shravana to our Manana. Let us do so. Now we reach our middle third of the Saṅgha dedicated to reflection. We can talk about insights from our reading or have questions and answers on all things related. Thank you, Allison. And thank you for being a lovely background for so much experience to take place within. Now, yesterday I forgot to do the question of the day. I had prepared one, so don't let me forget this time. I'll reveal it in a moment. Lakonen, you ask a very interesting and practical question. Does one need to keep religion and their own values separate? I really like that question. It comes from a very wise place, I'm sure. To me, it makes sense, though I would personally choose different words. That there is a kind of distinction one can make between the values that we hold true just arising out of our intuition or our experience, and the values that our religions teach us. But ideally, they should be one and the same. And you can go about that in a couple ways. You can simply repress your own values and try to uphold the values of the religions, even if we haven't experienced the truth in them ourselves. We could dismiss the values of religion entirely and just continue to uphold the ones we experience. Or we can try to find a way of unifying them. We can try to find how our religion, if it is true, a true source of revelation, then it should reflect everyone's experience universally. Maybe one religion expresses it in a way that's easier to appreciate from one person growing up in a certain culture or time, and a different religion expresses the same universal truths and principles in a way that's better for another person growing up in a different culture or context. So, if the goal is to uphold a universal value, then we have to find what is being said in scripture within our own experience, and we have to find our own experience within the scripture. So if there does seem to be a difference, then I think there is room to unify the two and find how they are just different expressions of the same truth, coming from perhaps different perspectives. But absolutely, if ever an interpretation of scripture appears to speak of some kind of violence or intolerance or oppression, then we can put that aside. Maybe we can return when there's another interpretation possible given our experience. But yes, always value kindness, compassion, love, trust, empathy, faith, inclusivity, peacefulness above any interpretation that does not speak to those truths. That is, in theistic terms, a part of you given by God, your divine compass, to be able to figure out, to discern between what is an action that will bring more inclusivity into this world and an action that will not. Thank you, dear Lilimor, for the heart me that you sent. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Austin, thank you for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! Dear David, thank you for your heart me, friendship necklace, and tiny tiny too. Yahoo! And Roxy, thank you for your heart me. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Buddha in your voice. You ask, what do I think of Christian rationality versus dharmic rationality? I think within reason, the choices that you make should be inclusive to each religion and tradition. There might be a different process to reach a conclusion in Christianity versus dharmic religion, but the conclusion that is reached should be the same, shouldn't it? It's not like there can be two different universal truths, can there? Because universal means all-encompassing. It means that if there is some other truth, that it's a part of that because it's universal. So the kind of allegories and vocabulary that is used in one religion may differ from another, but if they both speak on behalf of a universal truth, then we should arrive at the same conclusion. Logically so, isn't it? Thank you, dear Usha Bai, for your finger heart and the love and roses. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Thank you for your best wishes, Nodge. All the same for you. Ryan, you ask, have I ever had or do I want to have a guru? I would be honored to study under someone who would take me up as their student. For now, I find that holds true in everyone that I come across, because we have all been given unique experiences. Therefore, I can take advantage of that by learning something from an experience that you might have had in a deeper way than I have. I see everyone as a kind of guru for me. I see my mother, my father, my sister, my 2 cats, Sandy and Shadow. I see all of you. I see my own pain as a guru. I see all the lessons I've had to learn in this life as coming from the universal guru we call the universe. I consider this present moment to be the Satguru, the true guru. Assad, you had asked, what if there is context behind it that justifies it? Well, we ask about the justification, therefore. Does the justification itself make sense according to my experience? The authority of a spiritual scripture is not based on who it is said to have come from, but the ability to create truth within your very own immanent reality. If you read something and it doesn't make sense for you, put it aside. We cannot expect ourselves to uphold values that we have yet to experience the truth in. Religion should be a matter of experience rather than argument, you know. We shouldn't have to believe in something just because someone has presented us a convincing set of justifications. All we have to do is look within our own experience. Our experience is limited, yes, but our consciousness is not. And our ability to continue to unravel the moments of our life that we've had until now, they are ripe for infinite expression. All this is to say that truth should be like a mirror to see yourself. And if you can't see yourself according to this mirror, then clearly we have to make some clearance between yourself and the mirror because something is blocking the reflection from being seen. Maybe the mirror is dirty. That means we have to purify it, do some spiritual cleansing. And only then, when we can see the truth directly for ourselves, then we can speak on the authority of a certain truth. Because the authority comes from within. My people, you had asked, on this path to enlightenment, you are in darkness. Why? So that you may shine your light, of course. If you were surrounded by light, then what reason would you have to shine? Namaste. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your star. It's very beautiful. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And Roxy, thank you for the quintet of Gimme the Votes. Om Namo Buddhaya. Hello, dear Marlin. You never have to apologize for not being here. I hope your work was purposeful, and may you have lots of time to rest. Karen, you ask, why, with all the access to information as evolution, religion and spirituality still divide us? An excellent question, dear Karen. Think of the division of the world as something which has been ongoing for a long time, as you have pointed out, not because we have made a mistake or the universe has made a mistake, but because there is a constant influx of new experiences. Yes, we have had so many experiences already that teach us the value of peace and inclusivity, and that should be the norm, I agree. But as we continue to evolve, we also find new differences between us, and our own independence grows correspondingly. To put that in other words, there will always be something new to work through, just like a married couple. No matter how old you get, 50 years of marriage is not going to be enough to be able to agree on everything. Why? Is that a limitation of agreement? Or is it because you're constantly having new experiences, and the more experiences you have, also the more room there is to disagree also? So as we evolve as a civilization, we work through problems and then come into new ones. And so there's always going to be another problem to solve. Therefore, we are simultaneously evolving and dividing ourselves, and will continue to do so because that continuously gives us another challenge to unify. In other words, there will always be something more to unify ourselves in. There will always be another bridge to build. This is the exact same observation, just put in the other way. On one hand, we can point out that there seemingly will always be a problem. There will seemingly always be some barrier. And when you put it like that, it sounds defeating. If you're result-oriented, then of course, we will not rest until we have a perfect world. But if we are process-oriented, then we find the value in that. We can just as equally say that for as long as this world has problems, there is reason for you to be a problem solver. As long as there needs to be more peace in the world, there is meaning to be in being a peacekeeper. So I would put it like this, that we are in an infinite process of understanding each other, and there is always going to be one more thing we can understand about each other. Thank you, dear Anna, for your rose. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Truth Seeker, thank you for your heart me as well. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Dear Buddha, in your voice, you share that the Buddha taught not to believe that which opposes reason, and Christians are asked to dismiss reason. You bring up two beautiful truths, and we can put them against each other like that, but then we're creating another barrier. Or we can find a way in which they're harmonious. One way that comes to mind right now for me is that there are times when you should never dismiss reason, and there are times when you absolutely should dismiss reason. And so the Buddha was teaching you of the times in which you shouldn't, whereas the Christ was teaching you the times in which you should, and thus there's a lesson from both sides which can help each of us. For example, when a decision requires information that comes from many different perspectives at once, then reason can be used to distinguish between the compromises that we have to make between the various perspectives. Reason allows us to come to an objective answer. Reason allows us to discern between many different possibilities and find one that works best for as many people as possible. Reason is great scientifically. reason is very useful for coming to a kind of shared understanding of something which we see from different sides. Therefore, reason is a way to come to an objective answer. So in the world of objectivity, reason should never be dismissed. Reason is always helpful. This is the kind of practice we should put while living in the world of material forms, according to our five senses. Due to the limitations of our existence, we require adequate discernment to figure out what is limited in my experience and what can be understood beyond through the help of someone else's experience, given their reputation, given their knowledge on the subject, etc. This is all in favor of reason. But sometimes reason can get us in the way. Like when we're dealing with something subjective. When we are dealing with something that is by itself not a logical experience. Like when we are trying to find the value of spiritual scripture, for example. If we just use reasoning in a very dry kind of literal way, then we might mistake a historical point for a spiritual truth, and then historians get all caught up in whether or not this actually happened, and then we lose faith. And so I think many spiritual scriptures tell us to drop our logical analysis of these stories, because the point isn't to ask if this is something physically possible, if this is something that we can experience on the level of the five senses, but rather something that speaks to a greater reality beyond them. When we are dealing with our emotions, it can help to drop our reasoning so that we don't intellectualize them. When we're being there for someone and validating what they're going through, sometimes we don't need a problem-solving mind, but just a compassionate listener, where we try to find the truth in what already is, try to put meaning into our subjective experience. So I think spiritually, on the inner path, a great deal of reasoning is to be dropped, to let go of, because reasoning can only point so far. It has limitations because it's used for the limited world, for our finite experience. Whereas faith comes in to empower that which we cannot know by reason alone. Faith is that power which transcends our limited experience. So I'm not sure if my rambling has made a clear discernment between a place to use reason and a place to have something else instead, but I hope some of that speaks to the importance of both. Dear Merle, you would like me to tell you all about angels and my opinions on them. Well, an angel. What is an angel? Anyone can be an angel. One time, I missed a bus. And while I was sitting waiting for the next bus, someone who was clearly very upset walked by, and they had sat next to me. And ultimately, they were talking with someone else about how they really needed to phone someone. I think they were actually some kind of orphan, and they were a part of some community home for people who had lost their parents, and they needed to phone whatever it was called. I doubt it was actually called an orphanage, but that was the term they used anyway. And I offered my phone, and they said, "Really? You know? Is it truly okay? You know, I know the next bus is coming, and I'm not sure if I can have the phone in time for you to catch the next bus." I said, "That's fine. You can use my phone. If I don't catch the bus, I don't catch the bus, whatever." And after they used my phone, of course, I did miss the bus again. And when they gave the phone back, they said, "You know, truly, you are an angel. I feel like you are an angel. You were here at the right time." And here I am thinking, I just missed my bus. That's all that happened, you know? And just being attentive, I offered my phone, because what else do you do in that situation? But he was very clear that, you know, I was an angel for him in that moment. Now, we can easily let that get to our ego. Feel like I'm an angel. But also, we can feel like actually there was an angelic presence there, and that angelic presence was just using me in that moment. And anyone who was nearby, that presence would have hijacked and used, perhaps, you know? Clearly there is some divine force working, and I just happen to be an instrument in that. So, for example, the opposite of that, we might call them demons or demonic possessions, but it's kind of the same process, that there is just some force, and on one hand, a positive version of that force is called an angel, and on the other hand, a negative version of that is called a demon. But it doesn't have to be anything so science fiction or fantasy to point to some other entity, but rather just a flow of consciousness, a flow of perhaps thoughts, a flow of energy of some sort, as you share, Muro. And we can either be there, be in the stream of that, or we can step out of it. All this is to say that our bodies, our minds are instruments, and we can have these instruments used for creating more peace, more love in this world, or we can pursue something else, such as the gratification of our senses, which doesn't lead to anything fulfilling. How do you want this instrument to be used? You can step in the way of angelic streams. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your dozen roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Kav, thank you for your rose and heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Buddha, in your voice, you ask, why does believing in something that opposes your intuition make you afraid of being tricked? Because it requires vulnerability to accept that which you haven't experienced yourself. And in that vulnerability, you could be taken advantage of. So, it is a matter of personal choice always, whether one chooses to trust the guidance of someone else. If that weren't a matter of free will, then your vulnerability wouldn't be yours to express or not. Because vulnerability is so precious, you have been given the right to express it correspondingly by your discretion. Now, we can close ourselves up and never allow ourselves to be vulnerable, but then we never experience anything new. Our belief system stays static, and so does our evolution. In order to grow on the spiritual path, we have to be outside of our comfort zone. That means going outside of our own walls that we've put up to protect our vulnerability. But on the other hand, we can never have our guard up at all and be completely subject to the possibility of being maligned, being taken advantage of, and that's not good either. So of course, as with most discussions, an answer lies in the balance between two extremities. In this case, a balance between complete vulnerability and complete defensiveness. And that's where intuition comes in. Especially when it comes to a spiritual guide, we can assess for a while before trusting their decisions. We can look, is this someone that I want to end up like? You know? They may speak words of wisdom, but in their practical life, do they seem happy? Do they walk the talk? A great deal of consideration should be put into those whom one learns from. We consider all perspectives surrounding them. Maybe we open up a little bit at a time and see, am I improving in some ways? Am I becoming more peaceful, more loving, more blissful? Or is something else happening? We can sit before many people and ask this question to ourselves and continue asking it. Just as the Buddha said, there is no point in having blind faith in anything. You can have faith, and faith is a wonderful thing. But we should not have faith simply because someone says we're supposed to. We should develop that naturally and slowly, and especially if we've had religious trauma. And especially in regard to people who have had religious trauma. I say this, that give yourself enough time to slowly and surely open up. Dear G to Infinity, you ask, or clarify rather, isn't the Guru's purpose to guide their disciples to learn to understand their inner voice? Absolutely. Absolutely. The highest truths are found, of course, within our own experience. So if someone is giving an experience which seems to lie outside your own, then maybe it's not time for us to learn that lesson. Or maybe the seeming disparity between our experience and theirs is because we have yet to realize that they're not talking about anything new, but rather something within ourselves. Something that's there already. Like a mirror we don't even realize we're looking into. Dear Lakonen, you ask, rational Satanism advises individualism and physical pleasures. Is it a bad thing in spirituality? It is a matter of what you identify with. If you believe yourself to be the body, then absolutely, you should serve the body. You should give it tasty food. You should give it pleasurable senses. That is the best way you can serve the body. And when you realize that you will not find fulfillment in just serving the body, which is inevitable, then you have to ask, who am I? And maybe that identity shifts from your body to something else. And you keep changing your identity until you find that which you serve, which ultimately does lead to peace, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Our sense of self is just our guidepost for where to render service. And hiding behind the words I'm saying now is an answer to our true self. We have the ability to serve. That is our highest ability. Whatever we choose to identify with, there we give our attention, our energy. If we identify with our senses, then we serve our senses. We try to accumulate pleasurable sights to see, sounds to hear, scents to smell, food to taste, feelings to feel. If we identify with our body, then we try to make the body as powerful as possible. If we identify with our personality, then we watch a lot of movies and TV shows and try to refine our personality. If we identify with our image, then we try to serve the image and cultivate an appearance of beauty or success for others. If we identify with power, then we try to accumulate that over others. Whatever we identify with, that we serve. So my question to you is, upon serving what is the most rewarding? And I can't answer that for you. No one can. And what does that say about your true self? And thank you for your horror candles, dear Hybrid Jen. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. I like your answer, dear Gregarji. Hello, dear Anazak. That's right, Matgiza. I love how each chakra has their own mantra. Dear Gregarji, you ask, what are my thoughts on a musical proto-language? Oh, what an interesting thought. Like how many languages can be traced to a hypothetical common ancestor, so-called proto-languages, like Proto-Indo-European, Proto-Indo-Iranian, Proto-African. Is there a common ancestor to different musical languages, musical scales, musical structures of chord progression, theory of melodies? I would imagine, and this is just my 2 cents, that whatever answer you find, it must be found within nature, within animals, besides humans. because when I listen to animals, I notice that they're not speaking in words, they're speaking in notes and rhythm, whereas we communicate meaning through phonetics, and very few languages communicate through tone. Well, I say that, but now that I'm hearing myself speak that, we use tone all the time in the intonation of our voice, and the inflection, of course, that carries meaning too. But in terms of a grammatical structure, our language is defined primarily on phonetics. But if you listen to animals, it's not about the phonetics. You never hear an animal make really consonants and shift between certain vowels. It's not about that. For an animal, it's about variations in pitch, in volume and rhythm. When the birds are talking, it's just kind of the same sound, but in different notes, different speeds. So many different animals appear to communicate on the basis of pitch and rhythm. And that's what music is based on today. Our musical sheets, they have our BPM set. We have different symbols for what duration note. If you want a half note, what is it called? A quaver, a semi-quaver, a hemi-quaver, semi-hemi-quaver, etc. A pause, etc. And you have different notes. I would imagine that in the same way that music, even without words, can communicate something subtle, so too animals have a language of their own. Just not necessarily in a series of logical constructs, but something much more subjective, like music. Thank you, dear Gina, for the heart me you sent to. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Thank you, dear Babblefishy, for your quintet of roses too. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Dana, you ask, do animals not use phonemes? Not as much as we do, at least. I'm sure it's not so black and white in the same way that we also use tone, even in technically non-tonal languages. However, I'm sure that animals do change in their phonetics a little bit, but not as much by a long shot as they change just the pitch, rhythm, and volume. Such is why we know what cats say, you know? There is an almost a universal answer for the sound of a cat, and that's meow. What do cows say? Moo. What do dogs say? Bark. What does the fox say? Ding 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 ding. No. There is a simple answer almost for every animal, which goes to show we're so focused on phonemes that we have identified a common phoneme with each animal. But what does the human say? Is there one sound that a human makes? No, because we have so many different sounds that we can make, so many different words. But how about all of the the different ways, the variations that cats say meow, dogs say bark, cows say moo. Same basic phonetic structure of everything they express vocally, but what changes primarily is the pitch, or the volume, or the speed or rhythm. And you are right, dear Dana. Meow is a combination of phonemes. Alas, it is that basic structure, that phonetic sequence that remains invariably consistent. Dear Lanny, you shared that you've taken on a squirrel friend over the last week. I love that. I'm so happy to hear that. I love when we have connections being forged across species. We used to have a squirrel come up to our sliding door almost every day at the same time, and he'd calmly ask for peanuts, or I think she, because she was pregnant, and she was getting very, very trusting that she would even walk inside. As soon as the sliding door was open, come on, I'm walking in, where are my peanuts? We would give her sunflower seeds too. And what ended up happening is, of course, what squirrels do is they bury their nuts for the winter. And then in the spring, sunflower plants started sprouting all over our backyard. My mom was like, I didn't plant that. And then it clicked. No, but the squirrel did. And I think that's sweet. It's like a little gift back for all of the wonderful nuts and seeds you gave me. I give you a flower in return. Something beautiful to look at. Welcome, dear Roy. Happy to have you here again. And thank you, Anasek, for your quintet of roses. Om Kamalir Mahakali Kaye Namaha. Sorry for getting the fox song stuck in your head, Cassie. I like that, Bubbles. You want to know the feeling of a flock of birds flying in complex formations. Must be pretty to hear. How symbolic. To be a part of a group, journeying together in parallel, taking that journey in many directions, exploring the ways to express our own abilities together as one, each part making up a greater whole, a greater representation of life. Dear Lakonan, you share that I should make surveys for the answer, where we answer in chat with different emojis or something. I can do that, but that reminds me, I still have to ask my question of the day today. Today I wonder, wherever you go, what's one way of bringing home with you? Please let me know. When we think of home, we think of a house, usually. We think of one place that remains the same, unless we move. When we do move, and not just houses, but from out of our place of residence into the world, day by day, what's one way of bringing home with you? Sarah, you had also asked me, do I like cats? What kind of a question is that? Who doesn't like cats? Come on. If you don't like cats, I will ban you from this live stream. Bubbles, you answer to our question of the day. by being home wherever you go. I like that. Home is not something you have. Let it be something that you are. Be a home. Mira, you share your fluffy socks. I like that. Home is where some comfort is. So bring some comfort wherever you go. Dear Lani, you share bringing your pillow. I like that. Very much in tandem with fluffy socks. You are your home, shares CB. I am happy to hear that. Good answer. Trick question, shares G2 Infinity. Our heart. Home is where the heart is. I like that. Neo, you share home is you. How sweet. Sarah, you share your necklace. I like that. Bringing something meaningful to you. Lakonen, you share putting construction sounds on speaker so it keeps you awake, like here at home. You must be in a place with lots of development, which can be a good thing, but not for sleep. Your breath, shares Babble Fishy. I like that. And you really can't go anywhere without that. You can try, but you won't go very far. If home is what we return to, we always return to our breath, don't we? To center ourselves. Home meets you wherever you are. How poetic, Cassie. I'm sorry, dear Greg RG, that you were filtered. But it is funny what did come through the second part. Or snails and turtles. I wonder so much of what the first clause of that sentence was to end with, or snails and turtles. You said on the back, on our back, like Atlas before snails. That makes sense. Or turtles. Now I understand. We carry that space with us so that whenever we wish to withdraw inward, we have a place to go. And that's why meditation is so important, isn't it? To cultivate inner space so that when you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of space for you to freely express yourself, that you have enough inside to roam. Dear soul, you share you sleep too much sometimes. Hey, I'm with you there. I'm a big sleeper. Just by remembering it, answers Anna. I love that answer a lot. Yeah. And Lakonen, you share the company you have can make new places feel home-like. Absolutely. You know, we can say some people are like our home because they feel safe and comfy. Assad, you share, carry a piece of your heart with you, for home resides within your spirit. I love that a lot. I would say not just a piece of your heart. I think we need all ventricles and atrials. Gonna have a hard time pumping blood with just a little piece. As big of a piece as we can. If not the whole thing. You bring your sunny angel with you. I love that, Talon. How beautiful. Welcome back, dear Lucas. Dear Lenny, you share that you have a hard time meditating. Your mind doesn't shut off. Well, I hope not. Your mind's not supposed to. Did you know that? Your mind is supposed to roam freely. Let it be. Allow it to be exactly as it is. That's meditating. Energy waves, you ask on an opinion of the superconscious. Samadhi. Superconscious. It means freeing up resources. The same way that, you know, on a PC, if you want to empower, let's say, the game you're playing, maybe it's very intensive. Maybe you're playing, you know, the latest Unreal Engine game. Well, you got that Windows antivirus in the background that's taken up now. How much CPU for no good reason? You got a Chrome tab open, it's taken up how much of your RAM for no good reason? Simple solution, right-click the process that you want to empower, and you set the priority of that to high. Then that tells your computer, whenever there is a conflict between CPU, GPU, RAM usage, to favor this program instead. You could say that you've given a kind of superpower to that program, and your FPS rises. Maybe your draw distance increases naturally. So too, consciousness is a subject. We apply it to the objects in our life. If we wish to be super conscious, then that means freeing up some resources, setting the priority of the object on high. One way of doing that is through meditating. Meditating means being conscious of the thought process, being conscious of the whole process itself, and seeing where we are unnecessarily spending our energy, and finding ways of coming to terms with letting go of that, for example. Now we've drifted a little bit off of the question of the day. I will formally pause the question of the day there for now, but thank you everyone for exploring it. As I continue to read more answers to it, I'll be happy to consider them. So if I didn't read yours yet, no worries. I'm still catching up to the comments. But always important to consider that in each moment, wherever we go, even if we're away from friends, family, or house of residence, that there is still something that we can call home here and now. Me too, dear soul. I do sleep sometimes 12 hours or more. CB, speaking of sleep, you had asked if I travel when I sleep. Well, I wake up in the same spot, hopefully, ideally. You know, if I don't wake up in my bed, I must have traveled, haven't I? But you're talking of the travels that can happen, not to our physical body, but to our mind as we embark on a journey of consciousness purely. And it's a beautiful way of asking, do you dream? And I dream a lot. I dream so much that I rarely get that nice deep REM sleep, and I usually wake up tired of dreaming. And Drew, as you had shared, you can bring a good pair of socks with you to bring home with you. I like that. All right, enough with the reflections, says Stanley. I have to share my hair routine for the lads with long hair here. You know, I used to have a funny answer, which is that I would just do what I call the shower lottery, which is, I'll tell you what that is, and then I'll tell you what I do now. The shower lottery is like this. You live with two girls, a sister and a mother, and they've got all sorts of different hair products. You don't even know what they do, you know? You've never heard of some of these things. And so you step in the shower, of course, you wash your hair with water, and then you pick up the first thing that says shampoo. And that might take a couple tries, you know? You don't know what you're picking up. Somewhere it says shampoo on it. All right, I know that goes in first. It might be a different kind of shampoo this week. And then now that I got shampoo in my eyes, I do the same thing. It's more difficult this time. And then I pick up the first one that says conditioner. Anywhere on it, I don't care. That goes in second. And I wash that out. Different combination every time. But I've told that story so often that I think my sister and my mother are now hiding their shampoo and conditioner from me, since they know I've been using theirs. So because of that, I've been devoid of my own shampoo and conditioner, which I haven't bought. So I've just been using water. And the funniest thing is that my hair looks even more healthy now that I don't use anything at all. It feels better too, not as many knots, and it looks pretty moisturized. I don't get as much dandruff either. It's very weird that nothing was the solution. Happens often for me. Dear Sarah, you share that you have that hand with the circle on it in one of your bracelets. You were wondering what it means. I don't know much about it myself, but I can get you started. It's a Jain symbol from the religion of Jainism, which is a religion based on peace and kindness. Anyone can wear it, even if you're not a Jain. And the hand up is a symbol of peace. You know, it's actually said that people used to walk with their hand raised like this as a monk to show others around them that they are peaceful. And apparently it even works for animals too. That if you see an animal and you want to indicate that you're peaceful, you raise your hand like this. And so monks would walk with their hand raised, indicating they only have peace. You know, they're not holding on to anything, especially not a weapon, but no grudges either. And I'm not sure what that symbol in the middle represents, but I imagine something emanating from the hand, like love, you know, like space for you to exist with me, to coexist together. Because hands can, they can either hurt or they can heal. And when you want to hurt someone, you make a fist. And when you want to heal, you open them up. That's as much as I know. But please feel free to explore the symbolism. Now that you have a starting point, symbol of Jainism. Dear Anna, you ask, was the 1/3 supposed to be a 2/3, as you're not a mathematician? It's a good question. No, I specifically chose a middle third because this is the middle third of the Saṅgha. There's a beginning third, a middle third, and then an ending third. But I see how I could have done the numbering differently. And I could do 1 out of 3 for the beginning, 2 out of 3 for the middle, and 3 out of 3 for the end. But I'm just using the fractions a little differently. Good question, though. I was wondering if someone would ask that. And thank you, Rahina, for the heart me that you sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm happy to hear that the answers to our question of the day have been helpful for you. That's why I ask them is, you know, for us to come together, leave a piece of wisdom, take a piece of wisdom. We can benefit from the variety of perspectives as they complement our own. And thank you, Anazak, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And Thirth. It's a good gamble, isn't it? The shower lottery. I should call it shower roulette, actually. What if it's rug shampoo, you know? Well, I'd wonder why it'd be in a bathroom. Unless there were rugs in the bathroom. You know, one of the houses I grew up in actually had carpeted bathrooms, and it was as gross as you would think it was. Cat conditioner, you know, I put dishwasher fluid in my hair, maybe. I put motor oil, you know, we got all the chemicals in the shower. But fortunately, I never lost shower roulette. Welcome. And thank you, dear Romy. Ms. Bliss, you ask, why do they hide the shampoo? Why does it matter if I use it? Oh, it doesn't actually. My parents don't mind. Although my sister has been writing her names on things. Big letters, big Sharpie. This is mine. I'll pick up a granola bar and it'll have her name on it. Okay. That's okay. My mom doesn't actually matter. I don't actually know if they're hiding it from me. That was just a funny narrative that I could make. As with most things in life, there's two stories always happening. There's the story of what actually happened to us. And what actually happened is that I couldn't find the shampoo or conditioner. But the story that I came up with is, they're hiding it from me. But if I become attached to that, then I might become used to assuming the worst, that, you know, if something goes wrong, that means that someone or the universe is out to get me. But that's the story that we fill in the blanks with. And it's important not to be attached to the narrative that we come up, because we're always free to write a different ending. We're always free to look at that which is outside of our experience, past, present, and future. And if we are going to come up with a story for ourselves, at least choose a positive one. CB, you ask, does my mom and sister share the same views and habits as lifestyle as I? No, and I hope they have their own life. I hope that everyone lives uniquely and has their own belief system. You know, I think it's interesting that we even call people of the same religion, because that assumes that what they believe is the same. But can that actually be possible, truly? They might use the same words, they might say the same verses, the same prayers, go to the same places, but is their experience of the same truth truly the same? Is there such a thing as one group of people we can call believing in the same thing? Or is there, how many, 8 billion people with their own beliefs, and just some of them appear complementary enough to call the same? We might group them under the same vocabulary, but in their own subjective experience, in the meaning and spirit behind the words, are they really the same? Similarly, two people of vastly different faiths. Maybe they say different prayers, go to different places of worship, and say that they believe in different things. But maybe they're just using different words to describe the same experience that both of them had had. Maybe the meaning behind the different words is one, and the spirit is unified. I think in this way, I would hope that with my family, we all find a unique way of experiencing the same truth and living our life as part of the same world in ways that embody our truths in such a way that accommodates our own personal journeys. May our difference in vocabulary not speak on behalf of a different truth that we carry. May we find that ultimately we live in the same universe and experience the same conscious truth, but go about expressing our relationship between the two uniquely. You know, God was once asked, why are there so many religions? This is a question that an enlightened being known as Uddhav asked God in the form of Sri Krishna. Oh God, why are there so many religions? And God said, because there are so many people. He said there's one religion for every person. Therefore, there's however many billion religions. Some people prefer to call their own religion the same as their neighbor, but their own experience of truth is unique to everyone. Uddhav then asked the following question. Who is right? If we all have different understandings, which so-called religion is right? And God said none of them in particular. And that upset Uddhav. None of them! They're all wrong. But actually God was being a bit cheeky. Okay, I'm kind of joking, God said. It's not that none of them are right. It's that none of them hold authority over any other. And that any one of them is made right only through bhakti, which is a Sanskrit word that means loving devotion. That if you carry true loving devotion in your heart, then any path is made right by you. Because it's not the path you take that's right, it's your ability to cross it, to embark on that path. All paths, if they take you higher, will ultimately reach the same place. If you're constantly going higher, and then it doesn't matter if you take the western or the eastern trail on the mountain. You can only go so high as to reach the same peak. And loving devotion is the sign that you are moving. And I specify loving devotion because there can be unloving devotion. But that's actually an interesting Freudian slip. Demotion instead of devotion. Demotion means we're putting someone else down, doesn't it? You can be promoted or demoted. Do you have devotion or demotion? Is your idea of faith uplifting everything around you? Or putting them down? Loving devotion means that You carry in your heart compassion for all paths, all beings, and you wish for them to be on the right path for them, even if it's a different one for you. Thank you, TD Bun, for the heart me that you sent too. Jaya Satchitananda. I like that, Romy. The common denominator in all religions, love. When we were in school, I am sure that you were taught to use Venn diagrams. And Venn diagrams are a very helpful way of organizing information. I can draw one on my screen now. Let's say this circle represents everything it means to be a Christian. And this circle represents everything it means to be, let's say, a Buddhist. This circle represents everything it means to be a practitioner of your ancestors' faith, if you're indigenous, for example. So many people are concerned with what's different between each faith. If there's so many different faiths, then how can we be sure what is true? Well, I think a simple answer to that is stop worrying about what's on the outside. What's on the inside? What's here? Because whatever is true within all perspectives must be universal. At that point, it's not a matter of faith, because you know there's no decision to make. Regardless of if you're Buddhist or Christian or of indigenous faith or any other tradition, if you found something that's true for every possible person, every possible way of being, then that truth is not a divisive one. You don't have to worry about whether or not it is something you should follow, because it's something that all of us find purpose, meaning, and faith in. So, I like what you said, Romy, about love. If I had to guess what was in the center of the Venn diagram, it would almost certainly be love. It is certainly love. What am I saying? Almost. Is there any tradition in the world that does not make room for love? Is there any possible way to be full of truth, to witness the highest reality without the kind of love in your heart? It would be impossible, wouldn't it? We all know the value of love. Therefore, love must be of the highest truth. You're going to message me tomorrow, says Marlon. Okay, I look forward to receiving your message. Love is your religion. Well said, dear G to infinity. Thank you, dear Lumi, for the rose that you sent. Om Kring Kalikayi Namaha. And dear Gina, thank you for your pair of roses. Om Sum Suryaya Namaha. And Hybrid Jen, thank you for your perfume. Om Som Somaya Namaha. And that idea of looking for the overlap, the intersection of the Venn diagram, that holds true not just in religion, but in philosophy. It holds true in different scientific interpretations of some phenomenon. It holds true with any exploration of truth. If there's two people arguing, how do you know which is right? Well, you don't have to focus on what's different. If we first bring our attention to what they agree on, then we can start from there. Common ground. Did you know that in mathematics, in set theory, they formalized the notion of taking an intersection? The intersection, I was going to draw out the equation of an intersection, but I just realized it would take forever. So I'm not going to. But I will come to my point, which is the intersection of everything is nothing. This makes sense. If you take the intersection of all possible things, what is there in common? Nothing. Mathematically, at least. If you consider the intersection of all possible shapes, there isn't a shape that can fit into all shapes except for a single point, that which is practically nothing, a zero-dimensional point. Now that by itself is profound. If you think about nothingness, not just as the absence of an answer, but as an answer that tells us something. If we think about what nothingness is, we do find we have a lot in common with it. Everyone does. But that wasn't where I was headed with that point. The intersection of nothing is everything. Mathematically, it works out. It's very strange. But if you consider what could possibly be the intersection of nothing, according to the equation, according to the formula of what defines an intersection, you must arrive at everything. Now that's even more profound for me, because that really tells us that nothing isn't truly nothing. Nothing is that in which you will find everything. Because taking the intersection means finding something within, isn't it? Finding something that we share. Well, that which is shared in nothing is everything, mathematically. Thank you, dear Jarrett, for your 15-finger hearts and your pair of roses. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. And Soul, thank you for your quartet of roses. Ram Ram. Katie, you share you have nothing in your wallet? Well, if you can somehow figure out a way to take the mathematical intersection of your wallet, you will arrive at much more than just money. If you think about the space that your wallet has, what could be contained in that? There are infinite possibilities. On one hand, nothingness is a lack. On the other hand, it's an opportunity. You can look at an empty canvas and think that it's blank. But an artist looks at the very same canvas as you, and she may see much more than just nothing. She sees all the possibilities that can be made. She sees all that is possible of being expressed in this space. For the same reason, if you go to a musician's studio, what will you hear when you walk in? When the studio door shuts, the light turns on, and the red recording light shines in front of you, what do you hear? Nothing, of course. But that silence is necessary for the musician, because it is in the space of silence that that song becomes sung. It'd be very difficult to make music if you didn't have the space to put that music. So when we feel empty too, consider it not a lack, but an openness. And like the artist, like the musician, it is up to you how you choose to decorate or fill that space. You are not that which you fill yourself with. You are the space in which you fill in. Thank you, dear Gina, for your ice cream cone. How sweet. Om Namah Shivaya. Tattvamasi. Thank you for your quintet of roses. Jain Sargadatta Maharaj. Dear Cliche, you ask, our energy can never be controlled by others. We either choose to match theirs or not. On the deepest level of your being, yes, you are right. However, to realize this may require processing a lot of trauma, because I don't have to name them, but there are many ways in which our energies can be taken advantage of, our bodies, our mind. So this is not without validation of those who have experienced being out of control in that way. This is to say that no matter what happens according to your perception, your circumstances may indeed be out of control. But what you choose to take from that or do with that, how you choose to transform that experience, that energy can never be taken from you, can never be used by anyone but you. The energy that you apply in addition to your circumstance to make use of the cards you've been dealt, that is forever yours. When it comes to others' energy, as you spoke, we do consider their energy, how they're feeling, what they are saying, and we may empathize with that. It's good to empathize and feel what others are feeling. The only way in which we are able to identify the feelings of others without them telling us, is for us to know what it's like to go through that. For example, if you can look at someone and say, that person's angry, how do you know that? It's because you must have felt like that at some point. If you see someone has their head down and they're not really paying attention to that which around them, and you see that their eyes are red, that might be a meaningless observation unless you've experienced that yourself. Or someone close to you has been like that, and there was a shared emotional space. What I'm trying to get at is that when other people carry a certain energy with them, and then it feels like we are matching that, that's because we empathize, and that by itself is a good thing. And because it comes from empathy, it means that it's actually our own energy, which is just changing to match theirs. Therefore, you cannot actually receive any energy from others, nor can you give any energy to others. We can only see the vibration of another and choose to vibrate at the same frequency. In the same way that you can have an instrument and I can have an instrument. And if you know how to play by ear, I can play a song, and then you can begin to play the same song on yours too. It's not like as they play their song, suddenly your hands reach out and start playing the same song on their instrument, or that they reach out and give you their instrument. They have their own instrument, you have your own instrument. We have our own body that has its own resources to generate feelings, so do they. So if we are feeling something that we can identify as what they're feeling, then that's a process taking place within ourselves. Which means that we can choose to play a different tune, or we can choose to harmonize, or if we want to be a rascal and play a completely dissonant tune with theirs, that's up to you. My point is that the instrument that you have is something that you get to decide what to do with. We are just naturally empathetic. We forget that we're even doing that we are the ones bringing ourselves to the negativity that they are expressing to. And if we're dealing with something ourselves and we don't have the resources for that, we don't have to. Otherwise, we're allowed to empathize, of course, and add in our own improvisations to complement their own composition. Thank you, Rainbolt Mum, for the hand hearts you sent. Hum Mani Padme Hum. And Hybrid Jen, thank you for your witchy kitty and a baby ghost. Jaya Sitaram. That's an interesting question, Katie. When I am able to empathize with another, when I am able to share an experience of my own, maybe an experience of pain so that another doesn't have to, then that simultaneously brings about a sense of togetherness in that other person and in myself. It validates what I'm going through, what I have gone through, and what they're going through. And it's so healing for both of us. We all have experienced some degree of pain, and a lot of it remains meaningless until we see someone else going through something similar. And then suddenly, the pain that I felt has a reason. Maybe I didn't recognize that until now. But now that I have the opportunity to empathize, because I know what it's like in some capacity to go through what they're going through, so much healing takes place within me, even before I walk up and say, "Hi, I see what you're going through, and I've been there before." Because within you, now that pain that you carried is not just a blotch on your record of life. It's not something that should never have happened. It's something that is a point of connection for you and this other person in this moment. And that allows you to feel like what you've gone through has meaning. And thank you, Zadina Turen, for your heart me. Ganabataye Namaha. And dear Scott, thank you for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Cliche, you ask, what if the person you're trying to help is lacking knowledge, understanding, lacks comprehension, or doesn't have the capacity, or just not open to being helped? Then it's as simple as you can't help them. Because help is something that requires consent. It is a process that requires two people coming together, not just one person. There has to be an opening for it. Because if we try to help and they're not ready, then we won't be of much help. Everything will just go in one ear out the other, or we might even put them in unnecessary harm because their own resistance relative to our pressure is adding to all of the resistance in their own system already. It's intensifying their negative experience. So all we can really do is make that offer. And it's the offering that is enough. It's the providing space for change. Whether or not that change actually occurs doesn't define you as a helper. You are not the creator of change, but the source of possibility. You provide possibilities. If change happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But your role is simply to create that space for possibilities to flourish. Thank you for your money gun cliche. Making it rain. Kali Mahakali Kali Ke Parameshwari Sarvananda Kare Devi Narayani Namostute. May Kali rain blessings down on everyone. And thank you, Pink Pathos, for the tiny. Yippee! Devin, you ask, how do you trust your intuition more than the things people have taught? An excellent question. My advice would be to unify them. Seek to understand truth from the perspective of others, just as you have your own perception of that very same truth from where you are. Ultimately, all we have is our own experience. The experience of others only becomes useful when we relate it to our own. For example, I can tell you about this profound journey I've had, or a certain model of perception. I can tell you how I think about something, how it occurs to me. But unless you find that to be true within your experience also, if you can find a parallel in your own life, then my words or anyone else's words are just that, words. And I love that term parallel, because in geometry, parallel lines are at the same angle. I just have to make my phone stop vibrating. My alarm is going off, which tells me I should wrap up my live streaming for tonight in a little bit. But so too, I live from a different reference point than you do, a different body, a different mind, perhaps a different culture, a different context of childhood, etc. If we wish to find some truth together, then we have to find a way in which we align, in which our experience was at one point parallel, so that from the same angle we may approach truth together. That's funny, Ducky. I wish. Pink Pathos, you ask, what's a positive response to a person being negative and judgmental? I'm sorry that you're going through something uncomfortable, that you feel like you have to say that to me or have done that with me. I hope you know that I'm on your side, and although we might disagree on some things, we're in this together. I wish you well, and I hope to understand where you're coming from as you do with me. We can say thank you for expressing yourself. I may need some time to process what you've shared, and that space is not to limit you, but to give myself the opportunity to understand where you're coming from better. We can say, I'm sorry if anything that I said made it seem like I was against you, or that I'm not happy to coexist in a world with you. I hope my perspective doesn't contradict yours. I only wish to share an experience of my own in a way that complements yours. We can set boundaries that I appreciate how passionate you are in this matter. Because it's a really sensitive one for me, I might get upset if I continue in this way. So, is it okay if we pause it here for now? Is it okay if we agree to disagree and maybe come back later? You know, if you can kind of catch the theme of those answers, basically, we're acknowledging the uniqueness of our experience and point out that it doesn't have to inherently contradict each other, that we have our own feelings and thoughts and they need to be respected in their own way, and I offer you my respect. Maybe I need to offer my own body and mind respect and take a leave, you know. Wish them well, pray for them, that sort of thing. Thank you, Cliche, for your quintet of baby penguins. Nerd, nerd. Hybrid Jen. Thank you for your finger heart too. Bram Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. And Goli, thank you for your heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Hello, my friend from Lebanon. I'm probably not staying in this live for long. Maybe another half an hour or less. It is overwhelming to be empathetic at times, dear Marlon, indeed. Dear Indra, you ask such a powerful question. Are you able to tell me what you see when you examine the nature of unborn awareness? I am not able to tell you what I see upon examining the nature of unborn awareness, because it is that very sight from which awareness sees. That very seeker is the sought, as the subject of our experience, and not at all an object. It cannot be seen, cannot be heard, cannot be felt, cannot be thought. Yet it is the one that sees, the one that hears, the one that feels, the one which is the knower of thought. Fire cannot burn it. Water cannot wet it. Wind cannot dry it. A sword cannot pierce it. If the elements could affect it, it would be part of our experience. But it is the experiencer, unchanged and eternal. As the reference point for dynamism, itself must be still. Maybe that answers your question. Om Namo Indraya. Thank you, dear Pink Pathos, for your trio of friendship necklaces too. Jaya Sitaram. Michael, you had asked, how do you heal yourself from emotional vampires? If you feel like the energy that you give and or has been taken advantage of by others, then of course we have to set boundaries where they need to be. It may seem like the kind thing to do to always be vulnerable and open, but sometimes that kindness is used to fill an insecurity of others, and at that point it no longer becomes the essence of kindness. It becomes something else. The kind thing to do in such a situation is to give people their independence to discover something they need to find within, not in you. That can be healing by itself. But in your own time, in your own space. Healing means to recognize that your true self remains already whole. Spiritual healing, that is. That your spirit, your consciousness, has been unaffected this whole time. Our body, our mind, may have some wounds that need to heal. That certainly takes time. But when it comes to our spirit, our immortal consciousness, nothing about it can be damaged, and therefore nothing about it needs to be healed. Knowing this to be your true self, you ought not to grieve. Therefore, the more we get in touch with our consciousness, the less we feel there needs to be healed. Still, I wish for your body and mind to be taken very, very cared for. Is that grammatically correct? You know what I'm saying anyway. And in fact, our consciousness as the healer, not the one that needs to be healed, it finds meaning and wholeness in the way it's able to attend to the healing of our body and our mind too. Remember that it's not selfish to take care of your body and mind, especially when, for one, it's the vehicle for you to do that for others. You can't expect to take care of others if you don't take care of your body or mind. And secondly, when you take care of yourself, people that look up to you in their life also learn how to take care of themselves. My best wishes. I just read your comment, G to Infinity. Our yam needs dinner. Thank you for considering my dietary needs. It is about time I feed myself soon, but it's more important for me to wrap up the Saṅgha slowly. And Marlon, you ask, how else can you tell someone that they are so worthy despite others making them feel worthless? In some sense, you can't. Because if we expect someone in our life to know their worth by our words, how can we do so by essentially saying that you shouldn't be doing that for others? Because if others are making them feel worthless, then on one hand it's good to have people that ensure that they are feeling worthy. But on the other hand, the problem is that the worth is being gauged by what other people say about them. Step one is to have people in their life that affirm their worth, absolutely, like you're doing. But step two, and this is the most important step, ensure that they're not judging their worth based on what anyone says, and that includes you as well. That we can say, you are so worthy. And that is true beyond what I can even say for you. That your worth is not defined by anyone except for you. And so we guide them to discover it for themselves, rather than just change what person is being gauged for, what person is being used to gauge their worthiness. Does that make sense? Because to truly discover one's worth means that we let go of defining it by another person's words, which means simultaneously letting go of both the ways in which people say that we're not worthy or that we are. We must discover that on our own. Create that space as a friend for them to do personal exploration. Be them for there. Be them for there. That's a mix-up of words. Be there for them. And allow them to feel vulnerable in your presence without any pressure. You are a good friend, dear Marlon. Gianna Rose, you ask, where do you even start to get in touch with your consciousness if you've been numbing for so long? Who is the one which is even conscious of that numbness? We can have an experience and be conscious of that experience. And we can recognize the absence of that experience and be conscious of that absence. Your consciousness has been fully there this whole time either way, whether you recognize it or not. Consciousness is the source from which everything comes. The secret is to be concerned with the subject of your life rather than the object of your life. Being concerned with the objects of your life means that you're living in your perception. You're living in everything that you see and hear and feel and think. You define yourself by these things. But ask not how you are to be defined by objects, and instead bring your attention to the one which is doing all the seeing and hearing and perceiving of these objects themselves. Who is that? What miraculous power even has this capacity to be aware at all? What is this nature of this universe as it occurs to me? Who am I as this witness? Why do I have a perception of things at all? Why couldn't the universe just exist mechanically without any kind of storyteller? Where does this extra audience member I call myself come from in this cosmos? What is its nature? Inquire in this way. You slowly bring yourself inward to discover the true nature of yourself, not as a body or a mind, a person, a place or thing, not as a noun, but a possibility, a place of action, of change, of potential. We have come into this world with nothing. When we were born, we had to acquire a language. We had to acquire money. We had to acquire possessions. We had to acquire friends. We had to acquire knowledge. We even had to acquire this body. When we first moved in to the apartment of our mother, she was making it for us. It was her that was doing all the work to make that body for us. We just acquired it, and at some point we will have to leave that along with all our money. You know, you don't take your bank account into the afterlife. I will affirm you of that. Good news is you don't take your debt either. We leave with absolutely nothing from this world, So this life shouldn't be about what you gain from it, but rather what you give to it, rather what comes from you, and not what occurs to you. What do you want to do with the world? If there is meaning in life, it is found by looking in that direction. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your garland headpiece. Om Kring Kalikayi Namaha. Dear Orojin, you asked, what can we do when we enter a spiritual psychosis? I would say that by itself a psychosis is not spiritual, because spiritual is all about feeling relaxed and peaceful and loving and engaging with the world inclusively. If there's a kind of negativity happening, that's in the transition to something uncomfortable, and it's temporary, and that too shall pass. If you feel like awakening makes you feel more alone, makes you feel like this reality is meaningless, then that's not spirituality. I don't know what that is, but leave it. No spiritual truth will make you feel like that. No spiritual truth will leave you feeling like you're not meant for this world, or that reality isn't real, or that you're unlovable, or I don't know. If you have a hard time discerning between what's meaningful or not, that's a psychological process, and please attend to your mental health with due care. Surround yourself with people that love you and take care of your body and mind as you do for them. If therapy is useful for you, please check that out, or psychiatry too. And trust that spiritual truths will always be affirming, will always leave you feeling uplifted, like you're part of a greater whole, that you don't have to be a certain way. Spirituality means coming into contact with spirit, by definition, as the name implies, and that spirit is perfect and whole and within everything, and the cause of all meaning, the most love-filled. It is love itself. If you go in contact with that, everything around you becomes more and more peaceful. From the inside out, our mind becomes more still, clear, and steady. Even our body becomes a lot more pleasant. And the people in our life, just being with such a peaceful source, they do reflect that back on us. Yes. See, we have to be very careful in our vocabulary usage, because some spiritual truths can be really alarming for the mind. If I say there is only one consciousness and that you are, then you could interpret that as everyone else is an illusion, and that nothing exists except for me. And that's a terrifying reality, isn't it? You wouldn't want to live like that. You wouldn't want to live as if everyone else is just pretending not to be you. As if your experiences have not been of any inherent reality, and this has just been some cosmic hallucination of the void. And you can feel like that's what it means to be spiritual. It means recognizing that this world is an illusion. But that's something very new. That's a part of a movement called Neo-Advaita. And it popped up at around the turn of the 20th century as a reinterpretation of the ancient tradition of Advaita Vedanta, which speaks of the very same truth, but from a perspective that does not lead one to such terrifying sentiments as being alone in a void and all of these perceptions as just illusions. Actually, the tradition of Advaita Vedanta makes room for different individuals and a world which is impermanent but still real and valuable. That it's true that at the highest level we are one, but not at the level of body and mind, and that doesn't mean our body and mind are any less real. It's just a different layer of reality. At the most subtle layer we are one, at the most gross level we are distinct, and that's true simultaneously. We can have duality at one level and non-duality at another. We don't have to feel like all the people and places and things in our life aren't actually of any substantial value. They are. They are indeed. This was something that I grappled with and gave me a lot of anxiety until I realized that I had actually been following something very new and not authentic to the original tradition of Advaita Vedanta. So please be affirmed that on the spiritual path you don't have to let go of the meaning you find at any other level of your being. The meaning you find in personal relationships, in being a human, in having a body and a mind, is just that we come into contact with something more, and our sense of self is not to be destroyed or eliminated. Our personality is divine. It's just that our sense of self is becoming, ideally, more inclusive. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your 21 roses. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Inevitable. Thank you for your quartet of roses too. Ram Ram. And I think that is one way in which our Western culture has affected this belief system. Due to our individualism, we've somehow individualized non-duality and come to this conclusion that non-duality means that only you exist. How ironic. On the flip side, another interpretation, a more holistic interpretation of non-duality means that when we care for others, we're caring for ourselves. That when we are happy, we should see that as a possibility for others equally too. And that when others are sad, we can resonate that with ourselves. Non-duality doesn't have to be this abstract notion. It can be very practical. And the practical interpretation is just that you are part of a greater whole. And we need all parts of the whole coexisting in order for you to exist. And likewise, your contribution to the whole is necessary also. And in that way, we are all one. Thank you, dear Gina, for your pair of roses. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Well said, Romy. We all have so much space between us, yet we live right on top of each other. Ironic. I'm happy that what I'm saying resonates with so many different people in so many different ways. How meta, isn't it? Dear Cam. By the way, I think I'll pause the questions and answers just after this as we transition into our Nididhyasana phase of our Saṅgha before we end. Cam, you share that you personally love caring for others, but you have trouble feeling like what you're doing is always being reverted. That sucks, doesn't it? Well observed. Yeah, so much of what we do, we end up going back and having to do again. We do something great, and then it gets dismantled. We do it again. But that's okay, because that's part of a greater process of learning. And every time we build it up again, we hope to do it with the knowledge of how it collapsed last time and reinforce the weak spots, make it stronger. The result is not the goal. And our ideal result is permanent, but the reality is impermanent. And an impermanent reality heeds better if we discover the joy of the process. And in the process, we will do all of these things out of goodness, and many of those things we will keep doing. Not because the state is to be desired, and thus we suffer in the reversion, but so that we get another chance of being kind, of caring, and that makes us feel even better the next time. Crocheting is a great analogy to this topic, dear old divine maze. Yes. How many times you do what's it called? A stitch. And then you realize you miscounted. Ugh. Now you gotta undo the last 40 or so stitches just to do an extra 3, and now you can do the next row. But if you didn't make those mistakes, how would you grow? Alright, I am going to transition now to the final portion of our Saṅgha. Thank you all for exploring questions and answers together. First part of our live stream is dedicated to Shravana, the acquiring of a new experience. Second phase of our live stream is dedicated to Manana, processing of our experience, and then the final third is dedicated to Nididhyasana, which is the yogic term for integration of experience. I wish I had an answer about the nature of the full moon tomorrow, dear Leah, though I could certainly learn a lot more about the phases of the moon and what each of them represent. But I'll just say that to me, the moon is representative of the divine feminine. She represents change. She is the one whom creates change on our earth. She moves the tides of our waters. This is in comparison to the sun, which represents the masculine. You notice that the sun, you never have a crescent sun. You never have a new sun or a half sun. It's always full sun, isn't it? Every time you look at the sun, it's always full. So it represents a point of consistent radiation, consistent becoming. The reason the moon appears as crescent or new or full, etc., is because it is reflecting that light, and we are perceiving it at different angles. And so the moon represents the perception of change. And so in yogic tradition, the sun represents the Holy Father, and the moon, the Divine Mother. When she is full, she is fully making use of what is possible. And when she is dark, it means that there is something new on its way. There is space for more light in the future. This, what did you say? Did you ask about a full moon or a new moon? Of a new full moon at the same time. Full moon represents all of the possibilities that are already flourishing. And thus it's a great day to be grateful for the light that's already in our life. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for the love painting. It's a very cute gift. Om Namah Shivaya. Ragnhildur, thank you for your trio of roses too. Radhi, Radhi. Okay, I'm going to have to pause my question answering now as we embark on our closing journey tonight of meditation. But just as a rapid fire, because it breaks my heart to have unanswered questions. Michael, you asked who influenced me most in the last 5 years. You did. Everyone here is my biggest influence. And Husavik, you wonder if I have a different account for posting math. Unfortunately, no. I only have one account, and my internet presence has changed. But if you like math content, I'd be happy to direct you to my favorite math content creators, like 3 Blue 1 Brown, like Numberphile, like Mythologer. Those are great channels for recreational mathematics. And I hope that you continue finding the magic of math in everyday life. Thank you, Leah, for the heart me that you shared too. Kamalir Maha Kali Kayi Namaha. Dear Nishi Singh, you ask if I could please tell you if your financial situation will change soon. I cannot predict your future, but I can tell you a lot about your past. Your last name is Singh. Singh tells me that you come from an ancestry of Sikhs, ultimately arising from Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak and many of the first Sikhs, how much money did they have? They were born in Punjab, a very rural part of India at the time of the rise and fall of many different dynasties and invaders from different sides. Sikhism is beautiful to me because it's a religion of poor people, first of all. That the first Sikhs were not wealthy businessmen, were not rulers. The first Sikhs actually rejected the disparity between those who had more money or power and those who had very little. And just with what they had, they cultivated a sense of community, a sense of love for what is possible in the lives that we have. And because your ancestry comes from that line, I know that that spirit lives on through you too. Now I'm going to introduce the meditation for tonight. This one's a very short one. Considering that in our Saṅgha today we read a chapter just briefly about Hanuman in the book Hollywood to the Himalayas, I thought we end with a 5-minute meditation to Hanuman. It's a mantra for devotion, bhakti, and energy, shakti, which is what Hanuman represents. Bhakti and shakti. Hanuman is a monkey. And I think that's really wholesome. This mantra is dedicated to the best of all monkeys. A monkey that had a lot of devotion and a lot of energy. And it is said that calling upon Hanuman gives us these strengths too. The mantra is Om Hanumate Namaha. And that means salutations Namaha to Te Hanuman. Om, of course, is the cosmic syllable endowed with infinite power. I'm going to minimize the background music so that I can maximize the music that we'll be chanting along with, if you care to join, entirely voluntary. And I'll just read to you a little bit about this mantra. The Om Hanumate Namaha mantra is a revered invocation dedicated to Lord Hanuman, the mighty devotee of Lord Rama, known for his strength, courage, and unwavering devotion. Chanting this mantra with dedication is believed to bring inner strength, courage, and divine blessings. So we'll do it 108 times, which is tradition for a mantra. I'll just double check that you can hear it and begin now.
Hanumate Namaha.
Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Hanumate Namaha. Om Om Hanumate Namaha. 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 Om Namahate Namaha. Om Hanumate 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 Namaha. Om. I told you it was a short one today. Thank you for listening or chanting along with me. Salutations to Hanuman. May my may my chanting, my repetition of this mantra be dedicated to everyone who didn't chant. May you receive all of the benefits. May all of those whom were unable to hear this mantra or unable to chant due to joining late or because they have to be quiet right now, because maybe out of embarrassment or faith in their own tradition, did not chant, allow you to receive my offering of the benefit of chanting this from my side without contradiction of your tradition or lack thereof. May my chanting of this mantra be dedicated to everyone who is here, especially those whom earn this world and require a little more blessing. Sorry, I'm cheesy and a little cliche, but hey, Hanuman was too. Nothing could stop him in his devotion. Now, that concludes our Nididhyasana for tonight. Just a little bit, a baby third. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your trio of rosas. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Here, I'll put my background music back in. Oh, it's probably way too loud now. I gotta turn it down. It was a quiet part of a song anyway. As we consider the rest of our day, in closing of this live stream, if there is anything of value in this Saṅgha, may it be retained. Thank you, community, for allowing me the honor of continuing to develop myself so that I may be a reflection of the possibilities you inspire in me. Remember to hydrate. I will be doing so right now. Remember to feed yourself. It's good to eat food. Tattvamasi, you share that these could be breathing exercises too if timed right. That is something I'd love to do for Nididhyasana as a pranayama. We can do a short one, just to give you one to do on your own time maybe. It's long been known that there seems to be a parity of our nervous system, that parts of our neurology, though physically symmetric, seem to be used in asymmetric ways. Different regions of our brain used for different parts of our being. Our right brain determines our left side of our body. Our right brain determines our left side, and our left brain determines our right side. And it's said that the left brain is associated with creativity, and the right brain with logic and reasoning. There was this myth that a person was either left-brained or right-brained, that either you were predominantly left-brained or right-brained. But now neurologists tell us, no, everyone uses both left and right. No excuses to be creative if you're logically identified, or logical if you're creatively identified. We can exercise. We have to exercise both sides. It is said that our two nostrils, the reason that there's true, I'm putting R's in words today for some reason where they shouldn't be. The reason that there's two nostrils, it's said because the stimulation on one side affects one part of our nervous system, and the other, the complementary, our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, And throughout the day, you'll feel a cycle between which nostril is the dominant intake of air. You can even check right now. Are you breathing mostly through your right or through your left? Usually it's just one. None of them, says Anna, you're stuffed up. And in an hour it might be different. It could switch. Those times when it does switch is really good for meditation. It's said that the transition of time when both nostrils are open, that's called Brahma Muhurta, the hour of God. And it's really good time to work on spiritual things like meditation. Just before sunrise and just after sunset. And you might notice that during those times, your dominant nostril switches too. So just before sunrise, just after sunset, you might notice that you're breathing through both of them equally. Great time to meditate. If there is a dominant nostril, left or right, we can actually make this transition happen sooner. And one way of doing that is through pranayama, through the yama, the conduct of prana, of breath. We can take our middle finger and our thumb and we can put them on each nostril. And what we do is we let the exhale and then the inhale of each nostril one at a time. So you breathe in. Maybe you start with your right, you breathe out. And then you begin your next breath cycle, also on the same side. Inhale. And then you switch for the exhale. And then you start the next cycle again on the same side. Inhale. Switch. And complete the cycle. Inhale. And this can initiate Brahma Muhurta for you. An hour of God on your own terms. How about that? One of the most powerful forms of pranayama. Very good for your nervous system. Very good if you want to transition from the fight or flight response, which is part of the sympathetic nervous system, to the rest and digest response, the parasympathetic nervous system. Our breath is so intimately tied with our nervous system. A great way to regulate is through breath. And that's one of many such ancient practices known as pranayama, the yogic sciences of regulating our bodies and minds. Thank you, dear Deanna, for your Heart Me and Team bracelet. And thank you, Lumi, for your rose. Om Dum Dargai Namaha. If you found this live stream of value, do check out the recordings if ever you wanted to atemporally be here. I upload them all on my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel. And especially if you wanted to be here for the meditations or the readings but couldn't, I've also clipped out those and put them in their own playlists. So you can catch up on the book that we're reading, or do a mantra or meditation together. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Asato ma satgamaya, damaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you, Diana, for another rosa. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It is a shame that we don't get to see the comments in the recording on the YouTube video, but you do get a much larger space to express yourself in the YouTube comment section, since the character limit is much bigger, which is important if you wanted to give a much more wordy answer to the question of the day, since I know many of you are very linguistically gifted. Thank you, Kobus, for the good morning too. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night for everyone. Most importantly, may you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaskaram.